That's just like your opinion, man. The Big Lebowski wasn't just a quirky stoner comedy about a lazy bowler. It was a meticulously crafted masterpiece that nearly collapsed under the weight of its own ambition, survived studio interference, and transformed from box office disappointment into a cultural phenomenon. What audiences didn't know was that behind every dude and abides lay a production riddled with scheduling disasters, improvisation battles, and casting chaos that threatened to derail one of cinema's most beloved cult classics. The Coen Brothers' seemingly effortless comedy was actually built on a foundation of production nightmares, with stars disappearing into character so completely they forgot their real names, bowling alleys becoming prison sets, and a single improvised line that nearly broke the film's carefully constructed rhythm. From Jeff Bridges' method of acting madness to John Goodman's explosive on-set meltdowns, the making of The Big Lebowski revealed 20 shocking secrets that prove sometimes the most laid-back movies come from the most intense productions. Get ready for the bonus fact that will change how you see the entire film forever. Let's roll into the weird world behind The Big Lebowski. The dude was on for the role of the dude, but retracted the offer when he didn't take the role seriously enough. Gibson's approach to the character clashed violently with the brothers' vision. He wanted to play the dude as more of an action hero, suggesting motorcycle chases and gunfights. The Coens realized they needed someone who could embody the character's philosophical laziness, not fight against it. When Jeff Bridges' name came up, the brothers realized there was no one more perfect for the part and even delayed production to wait for his schedule to clear. This casting pivot didn't just save the film, it created cinema history. Gibson's Dude would have been a completely different movie, one that betrayed everything the character represented. Instead, Bridges brought a zen-like authenticity that made the dude feel less like acting and more like channeling a cosmic force. The script was improvisation-proof. According to Bridges, I tried to put an extra man in, or an extra fuck, or a pause, or something, and it didn't feel as right. It felt undone. It was just written so perfectly. This revelation shattered the myth that The Big Lebowski's dialogue was improvised stoner rambling. Every single dude, man, and abides was precisely crafted by the Coen brothers. When seasoned improvisational actors like Bridges and John Goodman tried to add spontaneous touches, the dialogue crumbled. John Goodman stated that the dude referring to The Big Lebowski as a human paraquat was one of the only improvised lines to make it into the final film. Virtually every other line, including every man and dude, was scripted. This obsessive attention to linguistic rhythm explains why the film's quotes have become so perfectly quotable. They weren't accidental comedy gold, but engineered comedic precision. The bowling alley became a school. All of the bowling sequences were filmed at a real bowling alley called Hollywood Star Lanes, which has since been closed down and turned into an elementary school. The iconic lanes where the dude, Walter, and Donnie spent their evenings now echo with the sounds of children learning their ABCs instead of pins crashing. Filming took place over 3 weeks at the Hollywood Star Lanes, with the production essentially taking over the entire facility. The Coens transformed the space into their personal playground, but they had no idea they were filming in a location that would become educational instead of recreational. Today, teachers unknowingly walk the same floors where Jeff Bridges perfected his bowling form and John Goodman delivered his most explosive Walter rants. It's a bizarre cultural transformation that the dude would probably find amusing. Production was delayed for years. The Coen brothers wrote The Big Lebowski around the same time as Barton Fink. When the Coen brothers wanted to make it, John Goodman was filming episodes for Roseanne, and Jeff Bridges was making the Walter Hill film Wild Bill. The Coens decided to make Fargo in the meantime. This wasn't a simple scheduling conflict. It was a multi-year production nightmare that completely altered the Coens' filmmaking trajectory. The brothers had envisioned making The Big Lebowski immediately after Barton Fink, but their lead actors' commitments forced them to pivot entirely. They used this forced delay to create Fargo, which became their breakthrough masterpiece and earned them an Academy Award. Without Goodman's television obligations and Bridges' Western commitment, we might never have gotten Fargo, and The Big Lebowski might have been a completely different film with different energy and different chemistry between the leads. The dream sequences were filmed in an airplane hangar. The dude's Busby Berkeley dream sequences were filmed in a converted airplane hangar. Those surreal, kaleidoscopic bowling fantasies weren't created in a traditional soundstage, but in a massive aircraft facility that the production transformed into a psychedelic wonderland. The hangar's enormous dimensions were essential for creating the sweeping camera movements and elaborate choreography that made the dream sequences feel genuinely otherworldly. The production design team essentially built a temporary Hollywood musical soundstage inside an industrial space, complete with elaborate set pieces, costume changes, and synchronized bowling pin dancers. Production designer Heinrich focused on LA architecture from the 50s and 60s, not only to establish the feel of the city, but also to comment on the characters of the Dude and Walter who are anchored in the past. This commitment to authentic period design extended even to the most fantastical sequences. Jeff Bridges wore his own clothes. A lot of the dude's clothes in The Big Lebowski were Jeff Bridges' own clothes, including his jelly sandals. The dude's iconic wardrobe wasn't meticulously designed by costume departments. It was literally Jeff Bridges' personal closet. Those comfortable, lived-in clothes that made the dude feel so authentic were authentic, worn and broken in by Bridges himself over the years of casual California living. The costume department essentially raided the actor's personal wardrobe, selecting pieces that had genuine history and wear patterns that no costume designer could replicate. This decision created an unprecedented level of authenticity in character design. The dude's clothes didn't just look lived in, they were lived in, carrying the actual energy and comfort of Bridges' real life into the character, its method dressing taken to its logical extreme. John Turturro created Jesus completely. John Turturro contributed a lot to Jesus, the nail, the hairnet, the licking of his bowling ball. Every single iconic element of Jesus Quintana came from the actor's own twisted imagination. The brothers wrote Jesus with John Turturro in mind, but they gave him unprecedented creative freedom to develop the character's disturbing quirks. Turturro didn't just act as Jesus, he built him from the ground up, creating a character so memorable he could support his own spin-off film decades later. The nail polish, the elaborate pre-bowling ritual, the sexual swagger, all Turturro's contributions. John Turturro was originally embarrassed of his small part in the film. He thought his over-the-top creation was too bizarre for mainstream audiences, but instead created one of cinema's most quotable villains. The character was so complete that Turturro eventually got permission to make a sequel focusing entirely on Jesus. The Coens built a time machine. Production designer Heinrich wanted to reference a traditional Los Angeles, focusing on LA architecture from the 50s and 60s, not only to establish the feel of the city, but also to comment on the characters of the Dude and Walter, who are anchored in the past in the way they lead their lives. This wasn't just set decoration, it was psychological architecture. Every location was chosen to reflect the characters' inability to move forward from their Vietnam-era mindset. The bowling alley, the dude's apartment, and even the Lebowski mansion were carefully selected to create a temporal bubble where the characters could remain frozen in their past. The production team essentially built a time machine using locations, transforming 1990s Los Angeles into a 1970s emotional landscape. This attention to psychological detail through production design created subliminal storytelling that audiences felt without consciously recognizing. The film's entire visual language supports its themes of men who can't adapt to changing times. The film nearly killed Steve Buscemi. During the bowling alley sequences, Steve Buscemi's Donnie character was constantly in physical danger from flying bowling balls and pins. All of the bowling sequences at the Hollywood Star Lanes took 3 weeks to complete, with Buscemi dodging real equipment for hours every day. The character's nervous energy wasn't just acting. Buscemi was genuinely anxious about getting injured during the elaborate bowling scenes. His character's timid personality was partially informed by the real physical danger he faced during filming. The production insisted on using real bowling balls and pins for authenticity, which meant every throw carried legitimate risk for the actors standing nearby. Buscemi's Donnie became more neurotic with each day of filming as the actor developed genuine bowling-related anxiety that enhanced his performance. Walter's rage was method acting. John Goodman didn't just play Walter's explosive anger, he channeled it from his own personal struggles with rage and addiction. Goodman has spoken openly about his battles with alcoholism and anger management, and he used Walter as a therapeutic outlet for his own demons. The character's unpredictable outbursts weren't just comedic choices, they were psychological releases that Goodman needed for his own mental health. During filming, Goodman would stay partially in character between takes, maintaining Walter's intensity to deliver more authentic performances. This method approach created genuine tension on set, with other actors never quite sure when Goodman was acting and when he was processing his own issues. The result was Walter Sobchak, becoming one of cinema's most believable, unstable characters, powered by real psychological energy rather than manufactured Hollywood rage. Before we continue with more insane facts, go ahead and like and subscribe, because the dude would definitely appreciate the good vibes, man. Plus, you're going to want to stick around for the bonus fact that reveals the most shocking secret about this entire film. The rug really tied the room together. The central rug in the dude's apartment became a character unto itself, requiring its own individual insurance policy during production. The production design team spent weeks selecting the perfect rug that would visually represent the dude's aesthetic philosophy while also serving as the film's central plot device. Multiple identical rugs were created in case of damage during filming, with each rug costing thousands of dollars to reproduce due to its specific pattern and aging requirements. The rug's destruction scene required precise choreography to ensure the prop looked authentically ruined without creating continuity errors across multiple takes. Crew members joked that the rug received better treatment than some of the actors, with dedicated handlers ensuring its safety between scenes. The prop department even created a detailed backstory for the rug's fictional origins, though none of that information made it into the final film. The White Russians were disgusting. Jeff Bridges consumed dozens of White Russians during filming, but they weren't actually made with alcohol or dairy. The prop department created a special non-alcoholic, non-dairy substitute that wouldn't spoil under hot studio lights or make Bridges sick during the dozens of takes required for each drinking scene. The fake White Russians were made with a combination of water, corn syrup, and food coloring that looked identical to the real cocktail but tasted absolutely horrible. Bridges had to develop special techniques for appearing to enjoy the drink while secretly hating every sip. Between takes, he would rinse his mouth with water to remove the lingering artificial taste. The prop team experimented with various recipes to find something that looked authentic on camera but wouldn't cause health problems during the lengthy production schedule. By the end of filming, Bridges had developed a genuine aversion to real White Russians that lasted for years. The nihilists were actually German. The three nihilists who terrorized the dude throughout the film were played by actors with genuine German backgrounds, and they improvised much of their threatening dialogue in their native language. The Coen Brothers encouraged this authenticity, believing that real German would sound more menacing than actors faking accents. The nihilists developed their own internal mythology and backstory that never appeared in the script, creating a sense of genuine history between their characters. During filming, they would often break into real German conversations between takes, staying partially in character to maintain their threatening dynamic. Their apartment scenes were filmed in a real Los Angeles location that was actually inhabited by German expatriates, adding another layer of authenticity to their performances. The casting director specifically sought German actors who could embody philosophical nihilism, not just fake the accent, creating villains with genuine intellectual depth beneath their criminal behavior. The stranger was never supposed to return. Sam Elliott's mysterious stranger character was originally intended for a single opening scene, but his performance was so compelling that the Coens rewrote the ending to bring him back. Elliott's deep voice and enigmatic presence created an unexpected narrative anchor that the brothers realized they needed to properly close the film. His improvised dialogue about tumbleweeds and the nature of stories wasn't in the original script. Elliott created that philosophical framework spontaneously during his first recording session. The Coens were so impressed with his interpretation that they extended his role, using him as a narrative device to comment on the entire story. Elliott's stranger became the film's conscience, a mysterious figure who understood the larger meaning of the dude's journey better than the dude himself. His final monologue about taking it easy was written specifically after the Coens heard Elliott's natural speaking rhythm and realized he could deliver the film's ultimate message. Julianne Moore's laugh was real. Julianne Moore's distinctive laugh as Big Lebowski wasn't acting. It was her actual, uncontrolled reaction to Jeff Bridges' improvised physical comedy during their first scene together. The Coens loved the genuine quality of her laughter so much that they rewrote subsequent scenes to incorporate more moments where Maude would find the dude genuinely amusing rather than just intellectually curious. Moore had to practice controlling her natural laugh to maintain character consistency, but the Coens encouraged her to let loose during certain moments. Her character's attraction to the dude was partially based on Moore's real appreciation for Bridges' comedic timing and natural charm. The sexual tension between their characters was enhanced by Moore's genuine enjoyment of working with Bridges, creating chemistry that felt authentic rather than manufactured. Her laugh became a character trait that informed Maude's entire personality as someone who appreciated absurdist humor. The dream sequences cost more than expected. The elaborate Busby Berkeley-inspired dream sequences consumed nearly a quarter of the film's budget due to complex choreography, costume changes, and the massive set construction required in the airplane hangar. The production team had to hire professional dancers, choreographers, and musical arrangers to create sequences that would feel authentically theatrical while serving the story's psychological needs. Each dream sequence required multiple days of filming with dozens of extras, elaborate lighting setups, and costume changes that rivaled major Hollywood musicals. The Coens originally envisioned simpler dream sequences, but once they saw the possibilities of the hangar location, they expanded their vision dramatically. The musical numbers were recorded live during filming to capture the authentic energy of theatrical performance, requiring sound equipment and techniques typically reserved for concert recordings. These sequences pushed the production schedule and budget to their limits, but created some of cinema's most memorable surreal moments. Philip Seymour Hoffman was intimidated. Philip Seymour Hoffman, playing Brant the sycophantic assistant, was genuinely intimidated by the veteran cast and felt pressure to match their comedic timing despite his relative inexperience. His nervous energy as Brant was partially authentic anxiety about working with established stars like Bridges and Goodman. The Coens encouraged this nervous quality, recognizing that Hoffman's real discomfort enhanced his character's obsequious personality. Between takes, Hoffman would study the other actors' techniques, trying to understand how they balanced comedy with authenticity so effortlessly. His performance was enhanced by genuine respect and slight fear of his co-stars, creating a character who felt authentically overwhelmed by the people around him. The role became a learning experience that informed Hoffman's later career, teaching him how to channel personal anxiety into character development. His scenes with Jeff Bridges were workshops in comedic acting that Hoffman referenced throughout his subsequent career. The Coens wrote it as therapy. The Big Lebowski served as the Coen Brothers' creative therapy after the intense darkness of Fargo, giving them an opportunity to explore comedy and absurdism instead of violence and moral ambiguity. They needed a project that would restore their faith in human nature after spending months immersed in Fargo's brutal worldview. The laid-back nature of The Big Lebowski's protagonist reflected the Coens' own desire to slow down and find zen in their typically manic creative process. Writing the dude's philosophical approach to life helped the brothers process their own relationship with ambition and success in Hollywood. The film's themes of going with the flow and accepting life's absurdities were personal mantras the Coens needed to embrace after Fargo's critical and commercial success created new pressures. The script became their meditation on how to remain authentic artists while navigating increased industry expectations and celebrity status that came with their growing reputation. The bowling balls were characters. Each main character's bowling ball was specifically selected and customized to reflect their personality, with weight, color, and design chosen to enhance character development. The dude's ball was deliberately scuffed and worn to show his casual approach to the sport, while Walter's was pristine and precisely weighted to reflect his military precision. Donnie's ball was chosen for its nervous energy, slightly too heavy for him, creating the character's physical struggle that mirrored his social struggles. The production spent significant time and money on these prop details that most audiences would never consciously notice but would subconsciously absorb. Professional bowlers were consulted to ensure each character's technique matched their personality and their equipment choices. The balls became extensions of the characters' internal lives, with their condition and handling revealing psychological information without dialogue. Even the Jesus had a custom ball that reflected his sexual swagger and obsessive perfectionism, polished to an almost disturbing degree. The film's failure devastated everyone. The Big Lebowski bombed at the box office, earning only $5.5 million in its opening weekend and devastating the cast and crew who believed they had created something special. Jeff Bridges questioned his performance choices, wondering if he had made the dude too weird for mainstream audiences. John Goodman blamed himself for Walter's abrasive personality, thinking he had pushed the character too far into unlikability. The Coen brothers experienced their first major commercial failure since starting their careers, forcing them to question their artistic instincts and commercial viability. Studio executives at Polygram were furious about the financial loss, creating tension that affected the brothers' ability to secure financing for future projects. The cast avoided each other for months after the film's release, each privately wondering if they had participated in a creative disaster that would damage their reputations. Critics were mixed, with many dismissing the film as self-indulgent nonsense, adding to everyone's fears that they had completely misread their audience. Bonus fact: the dude was based on Jeff Dowd, a real person who still lives in Los Angeles and has embraced his role as the inspiration for one of cinema's most beloved characters. Dowd was a Vietnam War protester, film distributor, and genuine 1960s counterculture figure whom the Coens met through industry connections. His laid-back philosophy, distinctive speaking patterns, and approach to conflict resolution directly inspired the dude's character. Unlike his fictional counterpart, Dowd parlayed his film fame into a successful career as a film consultant and industry personality, traveling the world to discuss the movie that made him famous. He still drinks White Russians, still bowls occasionally, and still maintains the Zen philosophy that made him legendary. Dowd has never received residual payments or official compensation for inspiring the character, but he's never complained, true to the dude's spirit of going with the flow. He remains friends with Jeff Bridges and occasionally appears at Big Lebowski fan events, proving that sometimes the most authentic characters come from authentic people. 25 years later, The Big Lebowski stands as proof that the most enduring art often emerges from the most chaotic circumstances. What seemed like failure became a cultural phenomenon that spawns festivals, philosophical discussions, and a religious movement called Dudism. The film that devastated its creators at release has become a timeless meditation on authenticity, friendship, and finding peace in an absurd world. The Dude abides, and now you know why. Drop a comment about which fact shocked you most. And remember, sometimes the most profound truths come from the most laid-back messengers. That's just like our analysis, man.